Dragon Slayer, is an academy that exists in the video game our boy loves. To play the game has this typical scenario, where you strive to become a prominent hunter and serve humanity by eradicating the threat of this monster-infested realm. By defeating monsters and completing various quests, you can upgrade your character in the game to a force that can rival the gods themselves. And that's exactly what our boy loves about his game. He has been working hard and has raised his heroes to unprecedented heights. After literally raising 1,000 NPC students to S-Rank, the system presents him with a special quest, an exclusive quest that only he has been able to access so far. With the quest classified as X-Rank, it goes without saying that the rewards he will get from this quest will be X-Rank as well. It sounds lucrative, because he can upgrade his heroes to X-Rank, especially since S-Rank was the highest you could go until now. As soon as he starts the quest, he finds himself transmigrated into the game Dragon Slayer Academy. Unlike many transmigration stories, this guy is neither shocked nor confused about how the hell he got into this digital world. It's as if being pulled into the games you love is something that happens every Tuesday. Anyway, he checks his stats, and as expected, his stats are currently at 0. No skills, no traits, no equipment. Literally, nothing. Then he is prompted by another system message. He has received some special traits, an exclusive for his first transmigration into the game. There aren't many details about what exactly these traits do, but let's hope we find out soon. He hopes these traits will help him evolve, level up, and become the personification of strength, just as he was before. This is where the game officially begins. Another system window asks him to prepare for the tutorial he will have to survive for 10 minutes, and as a reward, he will receive the Dragon Slayer Academy's new student kit. This puts a smile on his face. Since surviving against low-level mobs poses no threat, all he has to do is avoid attracting the attention of these mobs and letting the 10 minutes pass. It's a strategy he has used in the past, but little does he know that he is in for a big surprise. The sounds of growling and heavy footsteps echoing can't be from low-level mobs in the sky. There are literally 2 dragons fighting each other. He speeds through the forest before he loses his unfortunate behind in the collateral damage. He can't believe what he just witnessed. 2 S-Rank bosses just for one simple tutorial quest. Sounds ridiculous. Perhaps this unprecedented occurrence is due to the difficulty level being X. In the meantime, the fire dragon uses one of its magic skills and is about to unleash a massive torrent of fire. The intensity of the attack is so high that if our boy doesn't get out of this place, he will be incinerated on the spot. It is then that he remembers the traits, special ones he received, and decides to use one of them, the one that was called Copy. As the name suggests, Copy basically allows you to temporarily copy the traits and abilities of other people. But to successfully copy an ability, you need to get a closer look at that specific ability. The second requirement for copying a skill is that you first need to identify the target's name and rank. But being the former champion of this game, meeting the second requirement isn't that difficult for him. And without further ado, he copies the target's attribute known as Elemental Resistance. With the help of this Elemental Resistance ability, he avoids getting burned. It would be great if he could take a skill too, but currently, he can't use any due to the lack of mana circulating in his body. Suddenly, he notices the wind blowing backward, all courtesy of this fire dragon that is about to exhale a huge torrent of flames. The other dragon with electrical traits is also preparing for a massive breath attack. Sensing the danger, our boy starts running in the opposite direction before he's gone for good. Breath attacks are the signature moves of dragons. Even with his elemental resistance, the risk of being roasted alive still exists if he gets caught in the crossfire. While he's fleeing, both dragons unleash their power, causing a massive explosion. By this time, the 10-minute countdown has ended, resulting in the mission's completion. Before he was cooked alive, as a reward, he received the Dragon Slayer Academy uniform, a student card, and a train ticket for Tutorial 2. He must board the train to get to the academy. Dragon Slayer. The scene quickly cuts to the train about to depart for Dragon Slayer Academy. With a high influx of enrolling students, the train is packed with no free seats. So, one of the students with a katana asks a passenger to make room for him in the cabin. But the only response the katana guy gets is total silence from a girl who is fast asleep without a care in the world. At that moment, our boy also hops on the train, hoping to get a seat for himself. The guy with the katana timidly points out how the girl sleeping there doesn't seem to be in the mood to respond. Just then, the girl in question wakes up from her slumber. Our boy insists that she share her extra space, and the girl seems more than willing to oblige. As he settles in, he introduces himself as King Ho, before thanking her for the kind gesture. The girl returns the greeting and introduces herself as Seo-yoon. As for the guy with the katana, he's feeling completely devastated seeing the injustice of this world. He didn't get permission, but our boy did. Even though no one asked, he introduced himself as Go Hyun Woo. And once again, the only response he gets from Seo-yoon is complete silence. Anyway, he also helps himself and sits down. Grateful for the opportunity, King Ho asks Seo-yoon the reason he was late for the train. The katana guy reveals he witnessed 2 dragons on the way. It was such a magnificent sight that it almost made him forget his main mission for the day. Our protagonist also remembers seeing those 2 monsters. But his experience wasn't nearly as pleasant. It's something he would rather not remember. The train finally starts to move towards this Academy of Dragon Slayers. It's the place our boy kept returning to whenever he created a new hero, so he basically knows everything about this place like the back of his hand. And this is part of the reason why he isn't too excited to visit the academy, since there's nothing new for him to explore. Or at least, that's what he thought until he boarded the train. The students in his cabin, along with the other students and the train staff. He doesn't remember seeing any of them. They are complete strangers. They are all new people. Not some random characters he remembers from the game, although this world shares great similarities with the game he knew. The cast is completely different. This also means that future events and quests have been altered as well. So, as he makes his way through this new world, he wants to remain cautious about the unknown. At the moment, what's bothering him the most are the blank stares he's getting from the girl sitting next to him. She possesses special eyes that can turn anything into understandable stats and data, which she can then use. For example, she can see all the stats, or anything else she needs to know, about this katana guy sitting across from her. She can see that this guy is just an ordinary person with average traits. But in our boy's case, his stats are incomprehensible. No matter how hard she stares at him, she can't figure out a single thing about his strength, which makes him stand out. This is exactly why she has been looking at him with such a bewildered expression on her face. She remembers how her manager told her to approach and be friendly with anyone she finds interesting. That way, she can get closer to them. So, taking that advice to heart, she takes out her bag, which contains some important items and snacks she brought for the trip. In an attempt to be friendly and get closer, she offers him one of her cookies. Of course, Ken is naturally perplexed by this sudden and unexpected gesture from her, but saying no would be rude, so he accepts the cookie. To start a conversation, he casually asks if she uses salt, and the girl responds with a nod. Now that explains why they taste so average. Next, Ken turns his attention to Jung-woo and questions him about the peculiar longsword at his side. The katana guy swells with pride as he reveals that it is a sacred relic belonging to his martial sect. The reason it's wrapped up like this is because he isn't yet qualified to break the seal, so he left it wrapped, intending to use the spare iron sword as a substitute until the day he becomes worthy of this katana as a substitute. And while they are talking, a blonde-haired guy suddenly enters. His cheerful demeanor and wide smile completely change the cabin's atmosphere. He also stumbled. Here, while looking for a place to sit, Kim isn't particularly fond of loud guys, and this one in particular seems a bit suspicious. He already knows this fellow isn't here looking for a seat, so he wants him to reveal his true intentions. The guy in the suit feels a bit uncomfortable after his lies are exposed. He pulls a business card from his coat pocket and introduces himself as Sean Byung. He sells errand services to his clients, along with a range of other services that an ordinary person would need from day to day. He promises to find anything for the right price. Of course, our boy expresses his skepticism, but this snake continues to talk up his services. Kim has already noticed this suspicious guy is running this business, shadily and in secret up until now. This guy is being chased by the authorities for promoting his illegitimate business around here. Throughout his whole speech, he kept glancing outside repeatedly as if he were in big trouble and being chased by someone. The guy denies such accusations and tries to flee before it's too late. Well, it's already too late. The disciplinary committee has shown up to take necessary action against this guy. The man knows he's cornered. And about this disciplinary committee, it's a group formed by the students themselves that handles law and order within the academy's walls. Yes, the same disciplinary committee that has more power than the government itself. These guys don't waste any time showing off their authority and demanding this businessman hand over his illegitimate goods that he shouldn't be carrying here. The poor guy tries to defend himself by pointing out how insignificant his offense is. However, he's being treated like an unhinged, cannibalistic serial killer. The head of the disciplinary committee immediately penalizes the poor fellow with an electric shock for not cooperating enough. She's a lightning-type mage, something Kim finds very special and unique about her. After all, Lightning-type mages aren't easy to find, and conveniently, he has one of his copy skill slots empty, which means he has the perfect chance to acquire her ability. While he has time, so Kim decides to put this tasteless cookie to better use. He promptly throws it on the ground, ready to use it as leverage against the disciplinary committee. Meanwhile, the leader of the disciplinary committee is already planning her next move. Now that this suspicious guy has once again refused to cooperate, the only option she has left is to forcefully subjugate him and confiscate everything he owns. She unleashes a hummingbird-shaped lightning bolt, poised to pierce the poor boy's body. Just as it seems the guy is done for, our hero extends his hand and snatches the lightning attack before it can reach its target. This leaves the disciplinary committee girl utterly astonished. Meanwhile, our hero steps out of the booth, complaining about how the commotion caused by the disciplinary committee made him drop his precious cookie. The girl has no idea what this clown is talking about, but our hero has already achieved his primary objective. He has acquired the magic attribute skill, her lightning skill, known as Hummingbird. Our boy laments the loss of his beloved and most valuable companion a man could ever wish for, a cookie. With the cookie's life tragically cut short, he blames the annoying members of the student council for ruining his day as well. One of the council members doesn't take his excuse lightly, thinking it's a ridiculous reason to interfere with their duties. This Korean Jesus apparently wants to throw down, threatening to hurt our boy. In response, Ryu also draws his sword, stating that, if they want to settle this the hard way, he won't hesitate to respond in kind, bringing both sides to a stalemate. We get a classic stare down, to see who will make the first move. Deciding to handle things diplomatically, the council leader stops her hot-headed subordinate and offers a free dessert coupon for Ryu's immeasurable loss. Our boy is quickly satisfied with this trade, leaving Byun-chul to fend for himself again. To be honest, he never intended to save the guy's hide in the first place. He just wanted to copy the lightning ability. Now that he has it, our hero has everything he needs, with one skill slot and one trait slot filled. Moments later, the council president retrieves the item that Byun-chul had apparently stolen. In reality, it's a wig stolen from a station attendant. Considering Byun-chul is a mercenary, he was just pulling a prank for a client. Even Ryu thinks the guy is completely at fault. As she leaves, the pretty girl warns our hero to watch out for Byun-chul and his schemes if he knows what's good for him, but Ryu really doesn't like it when other people tell him what to do. He believes he can handle the situation on his own. Korean Jesus warns our boy, vowing to remember his face. As for Hyun-woo, he's busy investigating the disciplinary committee. He learns from Byun-chul that these people are the cream of the crop, the absolute elites. Their current president, the one who cast the hummingbird spell, is named Song Chun-hee. Her name is so well known that Ryu immediately realizes she belongs to the famous Song family, the one that rules over the Topaz Tower. This woman, besides her good looks and impeccable fashion choices, is not someone to be trifled with. Her grandfather is the Thunder Lord, Song Jong-hyun. And let me tell you, I don't even know the guy, but I already feel sorry for Chun-ri's future boyfriend. As for the guys who were following her, they aren't exactly nobodies either. Among them is Joe Billick, a notable student of the Fist King, and there's also Han So-moon, an excellent student of the Sword Empress herself. Finally, there's Gil Mi-han, and even though I'm making fun of the guy, he is actually the sole heir of the Golden Lotus Pavilion. After introducing the committee members, Byung-chu thinks it's time to leave with him gone. Hyun-woo curiously turns to our boy, addressing the whole cookie sacrifice he performed. It seems strange to him that Kim-ho would risk himself in a fight over a single cookie. Revealing the truth, Kim-ho states that he actually came to check out the epic lightning magic used by Chun-ri. This explanation surprises Junggu because he saw our boy stepping in to block the hummingbird spell, which leads Kim-ho to test his knowledge of the spell. Thinking for a minute, Ryun-woo reflects that he'd never seen a use of the spell before, and even though he caught a visual demonstration of it, he couldn't see the lightning hummingbird released. It's as if the attack was never intended to harm the victim from the start, but rather to leave her paralyzed. Kim-ho listens to his explanation and agrees with half of what he said. He continues to explain why it's called the hummingbird spell, since it's inspired by the bird's unique flight pattern. You see, in a typical demonstration of the spell, its performance depends on the mage's skill. The fact that she used the hummingbird is a testament to Chun-ri's skills. Now, if our boy were facing a mage, professional, he wouldn't have been able to catch the hummingbird, as the caster could easily to manipulate the flight pattern. But strangely, instead of altering its pattern, it ended up being caught in his hand. This only means one thing. Chun-ri needs to improve when it comes to the control of her skill. At this point, Hyun-woo is genuinely impressed with our boy's detailed explanation and his fascination with a spell. By the way, the other observation Kim-ho made when the magic was cast, he assesses that Chun-ri is talented for being able to use an E-rank ability, with just a D-rank strength stat, which further implies she has access to a strong trait, and even raises the possibility that she might possess internal mana. In any case, Kim-ho thinks she will easily live up to her reputation as the granddaughter of the Thunder Lord. Turning back to Ryun-woo, he quickly became a fan and friend of our boy in the short time they interacted. Kim-ho thinks this guy is exaggerating a little, but Ryu is quite serious about it and even offers to help him whenever he needs it. Appreciating the gesture, Kim-ho immediately decides to use this opportunity, and he invites him to come along at the same time. He politely makes a sudden request to borrow a silver coin. In the next scene, we arrive at the location chosen by Kim-ho. Unfortunately, the machine is out of order. And yes, it is a gaming machine because this place used to be a casino. The machine looks run down and broken in Ryu-woo's eyes, and yet Kim-ho is willing to bet his entire life savings on it. In other words, the single coin he got from Ryu-woo. The moment he inserts the coin, nothing happens at first, making him wonder if it is really broken. But suddenly the machine powers on and activates, unlocking a hidden event called Broken Slot Machine. Of course, this is something Kim-ho knows, from having unlocked every achievement in the damn game. Using this as his golden ticket, our boy pulls the lever, betting on the roll. But to the disappointment of both of them, the only thing he ends up getting in the end is a bottle of water. Yes, not the wooden bat of destruction, or the unyielding blade sword, or even the secret American technique called farmer's shotgun, just a bottle of water, and Ryu-woo does not understand what Kim-ho is doing here. As our boy quickly explains, that what they are doing is a direct violation of the Academy's rules, because getting any item from the machine is considered wrong. This makes Ryu realize he is basically acting as a lookout. While our boy is using that lever repeatedly to reap the rewards from the machine, he also suspects they will be fine because the committee usually does not show up. And well, let us just add this to a documentary of famous last words before death, because just a second later, Seo-min, a member of the disciplinary committee, quickly comes to check what they are doing. Seo-min reminds them of the consequences for using the machine. It will clearly result in demerits. The situation is turned upside down, causing our boy to instruct Ryu-woo to keep her busy for a while. The cute girl also reminds Kim-ho's accomplice that he will be punished too, for helping a student violate the rules. But to her disappointment, Ryu genuinely does not mind facing the consequences. In fact, he unsheathes his sword, curious to test his skills against the student of the Sword Empress. Soma also prepares for battle, realizing the meaning of her name without wasting any more time on introductions. Soma charges into battle with a powerful initial thrust, her heavy attack blocked by Ryun, who then initiates a counterattack. However, Soma flawlessly evades it. After creating some distance, Soma channels energy into her weapon and charges forward with incredible speed. Leaping into the air, she uses her entire body weight for a downward strike, the force of her attack so heavy that Ryun has to use both hands to block it. King Ro is also watching the fight unfold, noticing that Ryun is severely lacking in internal energy, hindering his performance in the fight. At the same time, our boy doesn't want things to end too quickly, because he's here for the whole show. Gesturing his hand toward the swordsman, King Ro casts an amplification spell, boosting the swordsman's magic core from grade I to grade C. However, this boost has a time limit of 1 minute, and a 1-hour cooldown period. This single minute is the deciding factor for Ryun, who is still struggling to keep up with the impressive Soma. The battle continues, as the timer ticks down to 14 seconds, making King Ro reflect that slot machines are usually avoided due to their inherent gambling nature. However, there is a piece of information that none of the players know. Its secret function is actually the trigger for the guaranteed jackpot. Think of it as a pity system when it comes to your average gacha game. Initially, the players start the game with 5 coins, and right now, it is King Ro's 5th and final play. This time, however, he is very confident in using the extra silver piece he got, borrowed from Ryun. It turns out that right after the 5th play ends, the 6th play confirms a guaranteed jackpot. It's not just a fair chance, but a guaranteed 100% chance of getting the best reward. The slot machine finally offers the best it has to offer, which in this case is the C-rank Dark Ice Crystal. The crystal comes with a potential danger that could cause the player's own death if used incorrectly. Anyway, the situation gets complicated for our hero because the blue-haired villain is about to stab him in the back. However, King Ro was prepared for this and knew his trusted companion would intervene to help him. Ryun ends up deflecting the blow, but at the cost of shattering his iron sword. Time runs out, but to Soma's shock and horror, this man literally drinks the dark ice crystals. Even after reading the warning, immediately, the system initiates a frozen state in his body. As you might expect, the guy starts to choke, like that satisfying scene where Joffrey is poisoned in Game of Thrones. But interestingly, in our boy's case, the frozen status keeps applying and removing itself, causing an endless loop. And just a second later, Leo stands up as if nothing happened, surprising both the committee member and Ryan. Shortly after this scene, Ryan asks about what he consumed from the vial, to which Leo responds that it was a mana-replenishing elixir. Let's talk more about the unique sixth spin of the slot machine. When used, it releases the black ice crystal, but this thing is seriously lethal. For most beginners who come across it, it results in a horrendous death. It's so deadly that a piece smaller than a fingernail is enough to freeze your entire body into a statue. Basically, think of it as Medusa's petrification ability, but this time, you're consuming your own doom. As deadly as it is, Leo explains that he is the exception to the rule. Why? It's because of his S-rank elemental resistance, that trait he obtained from the S-rank dragon in his tutorial mission. Because of this, his body has now entered an endless loop of applying and removing the frozen status, completely nullifying it. But not only that, he also gained easy access to immense energy after consuming the crystals. As for how he handled the committee member, our boy used his excellent manipulation skills to trick her with a fake explanation. Anyway, Ryan is quite satisfied that he was able to help our boy, because it also allowed him to test his own skills against the disciple of the Sword Empress. Leo thanks him anyway, because he wouldn't have been able to execute the sixth move without his help. The swordsman is utterly intrigued by the amplification ability that Leo used during the fight. However, our boy turns him down, stating that he can't use it whenever he wants, which is true, because of the cooldown. Leo's explanation is fair, because even Ryan understands that a powerful ability like that must have its own drawbacks. As for Sleepy Amy, she is barely understanding their words. Speaking of which, our trio is about to reach their destination, called Dungeon Island, the train's final stop, Dungeon Island. It's famous for its enormous number of dungeons and was previously a place filled with criminals who followed no laws. Everything changed when the Dragon Slayer, the first and most memorable hero, left his mark on the island. First, he took care of all the remaining criminals. Then, he conquered all the dungeons by himself. And finally, built a city using the island as its base. That city led to the creation of the Dragon Hunter Academy, the place that nurtures the growth of incredible warriors. He has finally arrived. At the institution, Liam is impressed by the bustling crowd. The place is filled with students from various backgrounds. Unexpectedly, the trio ends up bumping into Chun-Li, the committee leader, who wants to see our boy back in her office. The scene cuts to the meeting in the committee room, an interrogation chamber, notorious for being so frighteningly transformative that anyone who enters never leaves the same. The interrogation begins with the committee testing his body for a checkup after he consumed the crystals, of course. Nothing shows up because the frozen status is no longer there. This leads the committee to doubt the legitimacy of the forbidden item. From the start, the interrogator Sir Riem, who is also the head of the interrogation department, makes it clear that if he dares to disobey the council, he will be duly punished for the consequence, although no one was hurt this time. They won't be lenient with our boy if he ends up here a second time. The meeting ends to the council leader's disappointment. The thing is, the whole situation seems suspicious from start to finish. They don't understand our boy's intention in using the machine if he wasn't trying to obtain the forbidden item. And then there's the fact that the boy consumed it right before their very eyes. And in the end, nothing appeared on the scanner's report based on their observation. Junior strongly believes that the suspect has acquired some kind of illegal skill and recommends checking his current abilities with something called the magnifying glass. Chun-Li agrees they could do that, but highlights the problems that would arise. If nothing happens as a consequence of using the magnifying glass method, they need to be certain in their claims. Junior quickly realizes her mistake and apologizes, while Sir Riem tells her to handle things with patience. He also recommends that she hurry to the entrance ceremony, or she'll miss it in the next scene. We have our boy returning to his group. Among the other freshmen, he has just completed tutorial number 3 by attending the ceremony on time, which rewarded him with a few silver coins and a weapon selection ticket. Even though it's classified as E-rank, it's better than having nothing at all. He also secured a good return on the coins he lost anyway. The entrance ceremony quickly begins, but it doesn't exactly make the best impression possible. You see, the guy who comes to represent the school looks like a low-life junkie, who looks like he's being paid to talk. Apparently this guy was once the leader of the main squad, a dragon-slaying squad by tradition. The academy's director is always chosen from among the retired heroes who served on the front lines. In his golden age, this same guy wielded a fancy sword and was among the greatest of heroes. So, on top of his good looks, the guy is also quite talented and funny. He's famous for being rejected by a certain saintess, and some suspect it happened again recently. I think I'm finally starting to get it. Why the guy looks the way he does. He's battling the dreaded friend zone. Anyway, the headmaster begins by giving a welcome speech to the new students of the academy. He talks about the academy's founding, which, as the name suggests, is to create heroes to defeat dragons and help them become true dragon slayers. The first hero of his time emphasized the word slay because he wanted each student to understand the importance of becoming one. Leo understands this is supposed to be a welcome announcement, but damn, the speech is so long and tedious that half the students are dozing off. I'll do you a favor and skip the endless announcement dialogue. We get to the part where this man finally reaches the end of his speech. The announcement ends, and the only person excited like a puppy is none other than Rio, who considers it a meaningful experience, while any normal person like our boy couldn't stand it for a second. The swordsman has apparently gotten used to long talking sessions, due to his old master's rants. In any case, the ceremony enters its second phase, as the students are reminded of the updated list of prohibited items for the year. If they are found in possession of such items, they will face consequences accordingly. Furthermore, the new students will be tested on the ground level of a dungeon to prevent any risks in the future. The four-eyed instructor emphasizes the importance of maintaining a safe environment for everyone and reminds them to follow the rules. With that, the ceremony comes to an end. The students are in disbelief. The eternal announcement of death has finally ended. Immediately, Pike finds our trio and offers to eat with them. Also, it looks like the guy got a new tattoo, because he probably annoyed the cute beast in the background. Anyway, Pike tells them to eat well, because starting tomorrow, their lives will change with the first class. That same night, Aiden and Leo are pleasantly surprised to find out they'll be dorm neighbors. Our boy quickly heads inside to settle in, but he can't allow himself the luxury of sleep just yet. Instead, he sits on his bed in a meditative position, focusing all his efforts on accumulating mana and building a core. It's time to talk about the concept of a mana engine. To use any skill that requires mana, the use of a core is necessary. In fact, our boy has never crafted one before, but since he's played this game more times than he can count, he knows the theoretical aspect of it. Besides, he has already imbued a dark ice crystal with his mana, so this is a huge advantage for him. The perspective cuts to Aiden, who also seems to be in a meditative position. Analyzing his fight against the incredible Saman, he sees that she has been his true opponent for a long time, and although they were both holding back a lot of their strength during the duel, the outcome would have been much harder to determine in a real match. In reality, when Ken Ho appeared and improved the swordsman's core, he allowed that guy to survive much longer than he should have. In other words, Ryan Wu considers our boy a master. It is an impression that remains constant in all of his interactions with Ken Ho. This guy not only maintains a calm posture but also has a sharp mind to see through any situation. That is why Ryan Wu is at a crossroads and wonders if he can truly trust him and ask for his help. However, he quickly comes to the conclusion that it is not right to turn this into a transactional relationship with his first friend. Instead, he prioritizes helping himself with his own skills, and this brings us to the next day. In the temporary classroom, the students are all gathered here, talking, and the sleepy Jane has finally arrived as well, although her groupmates thought she would arrive very late. Surprisingly, the classroom has no teacher around. The class has already started, but still, no one is here to take charge, which gives the impression that the teacher is not punctual. Finally, someone takes charge and enters the room, which makes the students feel excited at first, but horrified the very next moment. Yes. Well, you would understand too, as soon as you saw this guy's face, looking like a serial killer who just escaped from prison. The professor introduces himself as the teacher in charge of the class, Sudeok. Immediately, he calls on one of his students to inform everyone about his famous name. The terrified girl quickly reveals that he is known as the villain hunter. She misspeaks and tries again, calling him the human butcher, which is another one of his nicknames. Meanwhile, our boy is reflecting on his understanding of the situation. Let us zoom in and focus on the world of the academy itself. This place is the fortress, where numerous S-class heroes are forged with limit-breaking capabilities. Of course, some of them end up becoming terrible people and turn into villains to achieve their own goals. Sudeok, their professor, is actually a hunter who tracks these people down and beats them senseless. In other words, this man is the very definition of an intimidating aura, because he goes around beating up dangerous S-rankers for sport. In fact, he earned his name because he is notorious for killing more villains than capturing. Sudok makes it clear that he did not want to become a teacher, and only applied at the principal's insistence. He is someone nobody wants to mess with, and is known for his flawless execution. And with this teaching assignment, he intends to do the same with his students. This man is so obsessed with perfection that he threatens to kill the students if they don't pass their exams. Oh yes, what better motivation than literally having your life on the line starting his first class, Professor Sodiuk addresses the school's grading system. First he goes over the criteria for the exam. The written exam accounts for 30% of the total score. Then there's a behavioral score of 10% for maintaining a clean record. A bonus for good behavior. Of course, that same score can easily drop to 0% if the students aren't careful, thus affecting their overall grade. Sodiuk sarcastically states that he will make sure to keep an eye on each of them so that he can see at least a few of his students survive to graduation. Next, he talks about the practical exams, consisting of 2 sessions, dungeon missions, and player versus player matches, as the name suggests. Students will be challenged to clear dungeons and then face off against each other for a score. The grading criteria will be based on a curve against other students, in short, with 3 sessions covering 90% of the score and the attitude portion, and making up the last 10%. The overall evaluation reaches a total score of 100, with the scoring criteria settled. The professor wastes no time and takes his freshmen to the arena, where several matches are already underway. Remember what Byun-chul was so excited about yesterday? He was talking about the player matches. The rules are known to change from time to time, depending on the context for this specific event. The rule is classified as a death match, but not literally. This just means that the duel will continue until a person's life bar reaches 0, or if they cannot continue to fight, they can also surrender, and there is a total time limit of 5 minutes for each fight. If neither fighter can settle the duel within the given time, the match ends in a draw, or its conclusion is determined by a judge. Byun-chul also states that participants will face 3 random opponents from the same year, earning a total of 300 points for each victory. And as for the cost of losing or drawing to this, Ken quickly states that there is no negative penalty, but no one will receive a participation reward for it either. Suddenly a system notification appears alerting him about a side quest. Through the placement exam, our boy needs to participate and get at least average results on the exam, which means defeating one of his opponents if he successfully completes the mission. His reward is an extra copy slot, and to be honest, it's a rather convenient mission by Ken's standards because 1 victory and an average score in the dungeon conquest are not difficult to achieve. However, something even more important demands his attention, actually an opportunity to learn about the skills of the other students, because here he can identify exceptional talents that he can later use in his mission to create X-rank heroes if that fails. He can always copy their traits or abilities for his own benefit. Just a few moments after this thought, the announcer calls our boy's name along with his opponent to enter the battlefield. Immediately, Ken sees the scarlet-haired beauty representing the Ruby Tower, which specializes in fire magic. They are known for their high firepower, which is also the reason why Ken loved to use them as his main character when he played the game. However, right now, this girl is about to become his guinea pig for the next 5 minutes. By the way, she is a bit disappointed to be facing a guy with no reputation whatsoever. Attached to his name, to her, he is just a nobody. Not only that, he is carrying a pitiful earth staff that, honestly, looks like a glorified walking stick. It's almost insulting to her that he brought such a pathetically low-ranked staff. From these observations, she concludes that her opponent is definitely not from the Emerald Tower, which also implies that he is not a mage, specializing in earth, and it only makes her wonder if his goal is to use support magic. With the staff, she theorizes about its use as the fight quickly begins. Yana treats him as a support caster and prepares a powerful combustion skill, deciding to end the battle in a single move. Right after she cast her skill, the audience was captivated by her performance from the Ruby Tower. However, to Yana's total shock, her opponent's health is completely intact. It's true, she wasn't expecting an instant kill, but the fact that she couldn't even scratch this guy is simply insane. As the smoke clears, our boy smiles confidently at her confused state. The fight continues, and Yana is already on edge, questioning why her attack didn't connect. Thinking that her opponent must have used a dispel skill, she changes tactics and decides to use a spell that cannot be blocked by a dispel technique. What she does is cast a pillar of explosive flames around him, forcing her opponent to choose his options carefully, as any misstep could be fatal. But to her shock, our boy remains unshaken. That's right, look at him standing there majestically, without even trying. This irritates Yana to the point that she unleashes a third skill, invoking a powerful spell called Pillar of Fire. The attack is aimed directly at Ken's head and detonates in a firestorm. As it impacts the massive pillar of flames, it shocks the crowd, impressing them once more. with the power of a mighty representative from the Ruby Tower. However, things are not as conclusive as they seem, because once again, King Roa appears completely unscathed all this time. She was banking on her confidence in the Ruby Tower's spells, and yet nothing is even scratching him. In response, our boy finally makes his move, deploying the very same technique, the hummingbird technique that he clearly learned from Chun-Ri. Yama never expected a lightning spell to be used by a support type. She manages to dodge the bird initially, but King Roa skillfully changes its trajectory to attack her from behind. Yes, he just blasted her in the back with a lightning shot, bringing her to her knees. Yama succumbs to the paralyzing effect of the hummingbird spell as the duel reaches its definitive conclusion. Our boy recommends they end the fight, thinking it would be terrible for his opponent if she ended up revealing her entire arsenal. It would be problematic for her future matches in front of the audience, despite his condescending words. Yama finally decides to accept defeat, completely shocking the crowd. Their expectations were utterly subverted, much like the atrocious ending of Game of Thrones. Anyway, King Roa dislikes that he drew so much attention in his very first battle, so he intends to be cautious from now on. Hilariously, he's called up again for his next fight, giving him no time to rest. This time, Chun-Ri will be our boy's opponent. Yes, the very same girl. Stylish and the head of the first-year disciplinary committee, she is making her presence known. But more importantly, she has a score to settle with, King Roa. Our boy looks at her for a moment, and, just to mess with her plans, he forfeits the match before it even begins. Sudo is perplexed by his sudden withdrawal, while King Roa simply reasons that he's in no condition to fight anymore, even if the professor suggests raising his exam grade. Our boy couldn't care less, as he has already achieved the victory he wanted. He also completely withdraws from his third match, counting it as his second and third loss, further irritating the Thunderlord's granddaughter. She yells at him for being pathetic and weak-hearted, unlike her grandfather, who always advised fighting with determination. Speaking of her grandfather, King Roa recalls that he was the Thunder Monarch. At some point, he can feel a shadow of him in Chun-Ri's behavior. In any other context, the advice she gave is actually useful. But in his specific case, it really means nothing, nor does he care. The guy simply walks away, maintaining the same posture and handing her the win. Chun-Ri reluctantly accepts the result, although she finds it extremely disappointing on his part. Before leaving, the master, Red Baiter 9000, tells Rina to also send him the coupon for the beloved dessert she promised. This little sarcastic comment bothers her so much that it's a miracle she doesn't explode. The same can't be said for her next opponent, however. Jae Hong appears in the arena, expecting a good fight against someone from the Topaz Tower, but he had no idea he got the Lightning Lady at a bad time. The result? Well, she destroys his body completely with Zeus's lightning strike, and within the first second of the battle, the fight is already over. The burns on her opponent's body are quite severe, increasing her terrifying aura in the eyes of Ben, who thinks that Ken made the excellent decision to stay out of her sight by forfeiting the match. Spoke too soon. Ironically, she's shooting him an explosive glare from the side with such intensity that even Ben can't help but notice. But our boy doesn't care, or perhaps he's just too oblivious for his own good. He's just impressed with her flashy debut as the granddaughter of the Thunder Lord. Meanwhile, the rest of the audience is getting really tired of the way Ken forfeited his second and third matches. They're starting to think he just got lucky in the fight against Yara, and that's exactly the kind of perception our boy wants his image to have. Although being seen in a negative light is usually a bad thing, in his case it's a positive thing. Anyway, Rina is about to face her third and final match, but this time, she's up against the beautiful Sarah, also known as the daughter of the Korean John Wick. To everyone's surprise, Sarah turned out to be a gunslinger. This fight is shaping up to be something worth watching, because gunslingers usually have a unique advantage when it comes to facing mages. People are starting to think that maybe Rina will lose this duel after all. But our boy thinks it's still too early to call, so they'll have to let things play out. To make things even more fun, Ken is happy to make a bet to determine the winner for 5 silver coins. Being the greedy little rat that Ben is, he immediately accepts the bet. The fight between the resolute granddaughter of the Thunder Lord and the mysterious and emotionless duelist officially begins. Sierra takes the advantage by firing several shots with her enhanced bullets. As expected of Rina, the girl quickly blocks the shots with little to no difficulty. Things are going exactly as expected in Ken's eyes because he perfectly understands that Rina's mana reserve is exceptional. What she does next is conjure several hummingbird spells. The birds advance towards Sarah, who is still focused on firing her shots. The gunslinger manages to dodge both birds, but just as our boy anticipated, Rina commands and controls the birds to alter its trajectory and strike Amy from behind. Unfortunately, she is hit in the face, stunning her immediately and knocking Amy to the ground. Clearly, it was not a direct hit, because if it had been, the stun effect would have ended the fight. Even so, it slowed Amy's movement, and with the first bird electrocuting her, it is obvious she will not be able to dodge the next attack. So things are happening exactly as our boy predicted, and will result in Cheryl's victory. But then comes a surprise element. Amy throws a smoke grenade to confuse her opponent, causing the smoke to blind her vision. It is an interesting tactic that surprises Kim, and with the smoke obscuring her vision, the battle becomes complicated for the lightning mage, and this is where Amy can finally focus on her advantage. The shooter takes aim, and lands a direct shot on Cheryl's back. A direct hit at first glance. It seems the attack truly hit her, but fortunately, Cheryl cast a defensive barrier at the last moment. And yet, she was caught off guard. She realizes she is in grave danger in this situation as the shooter quickly gets into position to fire again. Curiously, Ben points out that Amy must be some kind of rich millionaire's daughter because she is actually using an invisibility cloak as part of her gear. Not only that, she has pulled out an epic rifle to deal more damage as well. One shot from the rifle is so threatening that Cheryl does not risk blocking it. She only dodges by a few inches. At the moment, their health bars are roughly even, and half the match duration has already expired. The problem with the invisibility cloak is that Cheryl cannot see her opponent at all. She is caught off guard every time Amy fires another shot, which is exactly what the shooter does as she attacks from behind again. However, this time, Cheryl prepares a tactic of her own. Thanks to her barrier, she is able to track the exact trajectory of the mana bullet, helping her to pinpoint her opponent's position. In the short window of time she has, the determined lightning mage unleashes a wave of electricity across the ground, causing it to reach Amy and forcing her to leap away. Although she escaped the initial attack, she is in trouble because Cheryl has her in her sights. Furthermore, the shooter will not be able to dodge her next attack while she is in mid-air. The hummingbird quickly moves towards Amy, stunning her with a solid direct hit. Unfortunately for Cheryl, the moment the attack connects is exactly when time runs out. Despite Amy falling to the ground, with a lower health bar than Cheryl, the match is over. Ben is shocked, while Kim seems unsurprised because after seeing the committee leader's skill, he can say with confidence that no one can surpass her in a straight-up fight. By default, since Cheryl has more health, she is considered the winner at the same time he finds Amy's skills quite impressive for having lasted so long. As for the bet, poor Byron ends up losing and hands over the coins, but he wants to make another bet immediately to get his money back. Our boy realizes this guy is a gambling addict, so he refuses the offer back in the arena. Majestic swordsman Ryu has arrived to face his opponent, the disciple of the Fist King, Joe Block. As this fight looks interesting, Ken accepts the bet and concludes that the Fist King's disciple will probably win. Byron thinks that our boy is too ruthless with his own friends for saying something like that, but Ken is just stating the facts of the matter. Of course, the gambling addict doesn't get his point, but Ken expresses that he will find out soon. Let's go to Ryu's perspective, who understands that his friend is watching. This time he intends to show off his best skills. Even though it will be difficult for him, he unsheathes the iron sword, while his opponent, Block, wonders why he refuses to use the blade on his back. Unfortunately, Ryu expresses that he is not worthy of it at the moment, but the Fist King's disciple doesn't care much. After all, he plans to give his 100% in this fight, with both fighters preparing their battle stances. The fight begins. The attack comes from Block, who dodges the swordsman's first strike and quickly positions himself for a flaming punch. Even Ryu can witness that this guy's movements are top-notch. Besides, that punch just now was so strong that Ryu could feel the full impact even after blocking. In fact, his entire body is thrown back just by the impact. Ryu completely understands the critical situation he is in. Normal attacks simply won't help him last in this fight. As for his opponent, Block launches himself like a torpedo for another attack while the swordsman prepares to end this fight. With a single move unleashing his clear current sword technique, he faces Block's enhanced punches. Unfortunately, reality is disappointing for Ryu, as his blade shatters during the clash without his weapon. The swordsman, the swordless man, quickly accepts defeat. By the way, he managed to leave a small cut on Block's shoulder, who eagerly awaits their next encounter. The fight ends exactly as Ken predicted, because the iron sword is a weapon really weak for someone with Ryu's skills. That's the first thing that came to our boy's mind. When he saw the guy fighting on the train, it's as if Ryu has some kind of obsession with breaking his iron swords in every fight he's in. On the other hand, is suffering from yet another disappointment. Poor guy. He's eliminated by our boy, who expects his payment on time, as Ben is running out of silver coins. Kim offers him a chance to pay in another way. Our boy insists that he pay by offering a good amount of information. Later, they have lunch together because the announcer revealed that there will be a raid placement exam after the break, the trio sits together, while our boy grows impatient with this blockhead eating so slowly. Ben wraps his sandwich and asks what he wants, prompting our friend to ask about the top performers from all 4 factions. Ben doesn't mind sharing this, believing that this kind of information isn't that special to begin with. Let's talk about the 4 main factions and what they represent. Besides the Student Council, which is the Academy's official group, there are 4 main factions: the Murim Alliance, the Guild Federation, the Magic Tower Society, and the Order of Knights. I'm not going to lie. This is like 4 different Manhwa universes concentrated in one school. As for the leader of each faction, there's the majestic grandson of the Sword Saint, who commands the Murim Alliance, Morgan Jun. Next, we have the representative of the Ruby Tower, who leads the Magic Tower Society, Yuna Hong. Yes, the same girl who was on the defensive in her fight against our boy is actually a prominent member of her society. Third, we have the Guild Federation, governed by the druid Nari Park, who is famous for her tiger-striped cat. Curiously, there is another member in her guild, who apparently hides his strength. Finally, we have the son of the Sword Master. Literally, a manhwa title right there. I didn't know Jin Run Candle was reincarnated in this universe. Anyway, Leo Lee represents the Order of Knights as the 4th and final faction. The lineup is very impressive, according to the list Ben shared. Suddenly, they realize Rin Wu is nowhere to be found. Ben remembers the club president, and quickly runs off worried, leaving Kim wondering what's going on with him. With him gone, Kim is left alone with the silent and quiet Eden. You see, he feels the girl is extremely isolated, and he feels bad for her in a way, so he tries to start a conversation about the cookie she shared with him the other day. Kim shares that he received a food coupon, so he's happy to return the favor with cookies for her. The coupon turns into a blueberry cake, and Eden happily accepts to join him. While eating the cake, she asked for his opinion on her duel against Chunin, and why he thinks she lost. Kim quickly replies that normal mana bullets simply can't pierce mana barriers, which means it's seriously difficult for her to win against a mage with a large amount of mana. At the same time, Kim believes that if Eden hones her talent for amplifying her bullets, she could turn the tide of battle. Of course, the shooter doesn't see the appeal in training mana, and to his shock, our boy discovers that she has never done any mana training in her entire life. Curious, he asks about her process of conjuring mana bullets, which earns him a confused look from her. Kim asks if she has really never trained using the magic bullet skill, but the girl flatly denies it, saying she never learned it. This answer catches him completely off guard because, for a shooter, the magic bullet should be the first thing in the book. Kim can't help but wonder if Eden has been landing her shots all this time purely on instinct, and the thought that she managed to face Chunin without even knowing the basics of mana training makes his head spin, realizing just how lost she is. Kim decides to offer some help, explaining that once she masters mana control and learns the magic projectile skill, things might actually start looking a lot easier for her. Later, it's time for the placement exam. As the students gather in the hall, their professor begins to explain the rules for the conquest exam. Standing in front of a portal, he tells them the test will take place inside the dungeon, known as the Mist Forest. The nervous guy then starts to describe the dungeon's special conditions, starting with the first rule called high score. Basically, it means that the number of monsters each student defeats in 10 minutes will be counted as their score, so the goal is to defeat as many monsters as possible before time runs out. The second rule is something they call a fixed zone, and to put it simply, it's more or less a rank-locked area, where every piece of equipment, every trait, and basically everything is downgraded to F rank. The class professor informs everyone that even his core will be affected by this rank lock and warns them not to get any funny ideas, especially when it comes to managing their mana. After explaining this, he starts calling out the names one by one so the students can enter the dungeon. The room quickly fills with groans and complaints, as most of them start to complain about how unfair the rules are, which only makes the professor realize how useless most of them seem, except for a few good ones, like Han Somi and Choi Jung Pil, who might actually have a chance next. He calls the next group, which includes Kim and Una. As they get ready, Kim casually tells her to try using a rifle, and recommends aiming for the head of anyone who dares to get too close. Meanwhile, Chloe can't help but find it strange that a guy who isn't even a marksman is busy giving out tactical advice, as if he were some kind of expert. After that, they part ways, and Kim enters the dungeon alone. It's been a while since he last visited this place, so he takes the opportunity to test how much stronger he's become. When the timer starts, he wastes no time and takes down a goblin that clearly thought its little ambush was clever enough to work in the Mist Forest. Monsters spawn wherever they want, complicating the lives of students who aren't used to the chaos. But like any system, this dungeon is not without its flaws. and Kim knows that the biggest one lies in the fixed patterns that tend to repeat. Thinking about the goblin's position, he figures it might be part of what's called Pattern C. With that in mind, he readies his short blade and throws it at the perfect moment, hitting an ogre directly in the eye and through the skull in a single second. He wonders if he even needs a staff anymore, and smirks as he casually picks up the fallen monster's weapons as if they were handing out prizes. From there, he starts racking up points like crazy and dives into the fight without holding back. While he's on his rampage, two trolls think they've found the perfect target and charge at him. But things don't go as they expected, as Kim takes them down without even flinching right before he's about to leave. He remembers that there's a replay function and quickly deletes the footage, knowing that, if the system ends up syncing the monster's behavior with his exact movements, it could land him in serious trouble later on. With barely 3 minutes past, he already has more than enough points to meet the requirements and figures it's best not to draw any attention, any extra or unnecessary attention. As he leaves, he sees Chloe coming out, looking completely exhausted and muttering about how tough it was in there. Seeing Kim leave so early makes the supervising professor recognize him as the same guy who once chose to forfeit a player versus player match, and now here he is again, not even lasting the full 10 minutes. In his mind, he scoffs at what he sees as a weak mentality and silently ridicules the idea of someone like Kim ever becoming a dragon slayer. But that judgment quickly changes when he checks the rankings and notices that Kim has already reached the high intermediate level. The fact that someone achieved this level in such a short period really messes with his expectations, as it's the first time he's ever seen anything like it. Deciding this kid is worth keeping an eye on for now, he calls up the next group of students, which includes Ryan and the rest, who then check the leaderboard and realize that even the top talents, as Lee and Moyoung-jun, seem to be on Han So-mi's level, which makes him wonder if maybe Riwon could actually pull ahead, and just then it happens. Riwon takes first place with the highest score, proving that he's not just relying on luck. Impressed with the result, Kim praises his friend the moment he comes out, but he quickly gives credit, saying it was all thanks to Kim for letting him restart during the player versus player match. Of course, not everyone is happy to see them succeed, and some people nearby make passive-aggressive comments about Kim, but Ryu starts to get irritated while Kim casually winks at him, signaling for him to ignore the noise and save his energy. When Kim asks if the test is over, Ryu points out that Chunrai's score hasn't appeared yet. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, Chunrai is clearly struggling as goblins surround her, and she can barely slow them down. At this moment, she remembers what Kim had said about aiming for the head and decides to try it herself, concentrating her mana into a single point as she draws her bow for a powerful shot in the end. Her score turns out to be quite low, and when it appears in front of everyone, she gets embarrassed and murmurs quietly about how it's unfair to show her score like that. The teacher in charge of the class then ends the exam and announces that the results will be out tomorrow, telling everyone to rest until then. Right after dismissing the class, he goes straight to the computer guy without wasting a second, and demands to see the replay of Kim's conquest exam. The guy tries to pull it up immediately, but things take a turn. When he realizes the replay wasn't saved, this clearly doesn't please the teacher, so after an investigation, they end up discovering the obvious truth that the one who had deleted the video was the tech guy himself, which definitely raises suspicions. He knows that if our boy keeps up the pace he's going, he would easily pass 2,000 points soon. At first he thinks it's possible that he's one of the apostles of the evil lord who has infiltrated the academy, so it would be smart to silently prepare countermeasures against him. Four Eyes asks him if he should report the case to the principal, but the teacher decides to observe for a while longer, because if they don't present solid evidence right away, he thinks Kim will go into hiding and become even harder to catch. As he walks away, he concludes that if our boy really is an imposter, he will show his true colors soon enough. Meanwhile, in the cafeteria, our hero, along with Ryu and Hen, grab some coffee. It seems they've gathered at the cafe to try and understand the really confusing booklet they received while having a nice cup of coffee. Our boy tells Ryu to show his student ID and check his points. He explains that the numbers he's seeing are available points, which function as currency at the academy. He continues, saying that points can be earned from dungeon missions. As mentioned in the book, while they can be used to purchase items or services, they can also be used to buy replays that can be accessed before a student even leaves the dungeon. This includes replays of other students, as he shows off Sonia's replay, which he buys for 100 points. Seeing the blue-haired girl's recording so easily accessible leaves Ryan completely speechless. Kim says that since Ryan has a solid score, his own replays are probably also selling for a lot of points, and that's exactly what happens as Ryan Wu watches in surprise. He earns 300 points from people buying his dungeon replays. Kim immediately realizes this is actually bad because other students can analyze him and discover his weaknesses. He tells Ryan Woo that although he got lucky due to special rules inside the dungeon, everyone will soon find out that he has a really weak core. But because of how much the points are worth, the risk is worth it. Then, our hero reveals that there is a special training room where the mana is dense, allowing him to cultivate and grow faster. Ryan Woo jumps out of his chair, amazed that such a place even exists. But Kim tells him not to get too excited because there are strict conditions for entry. Ryan Woo quickly guesses that it probably costs an arm and a leg, and Kim confirms that it requires a whole 500 points for just 6 hours. It doesn't take long for his friend to realize that if he goes there daily, he'll be broker than a beggar on the street, so his friend asks if there's another way, and our boy excitedly says they can get the season pass, which is given to the top clubs, meaning they would have to steal a spot from someone like Morgan June of the fencing club, which seems pretty much impossible, so Ryan gives up easily, but Kim says he can help him in exchange for a favor. With a sly smile, he says he wants Ryan to enter the deep dungeon when he's strong enough, explaining that it's a deadly place compared to the Mist Forest, which they just visited. Without hesitation, Ryan Woo confirms that he has a warrior's spirit, so there's no doubt he'll accept the offer. Upon hearing this, Kim tells him to train as much as he can, saying that he will somehow get the pass for him within 2 weeks. After that, he heads to the workshop to make another sneaky deal. Inside, he sees a reclusive person busy in the dark, who asks the reason for his visit. Our boy politely greets his senior and says he would like to join the Magic Engineering Club. So, the guy asks why he came straight to Workshop 4 instead of Workshop 1, and he said the people from the first workshop sent him here, really irritating the senior. The guy directly tells him to say what he wants and leave, instead of bothering him as he turns away. Kim notices that his senior has a rank B magic engineering skill and copies it, shamelessly, without any regard for consent. He then looks around for something, and the moment his eyes land on it, a cunning smile appears on his face as he picks up a glowing blue cube and asks his senior if it has any value. The man says it is useless trash, because it's so complex that no one can replicate something like it. Our boy asks him if he can keep the item, and says he feels bad for taking it for free, so he offers to trade it for a catalyst reagent in return, because even though the item isn't exactly a big deal, it's something an engineer always needs. Just as he planned, the senior gladly makes the trade and asks him to keep quiet about their little deal, and our friend smiles as he leaves, watching the fool celebrate, thinking he just traded a catalyst worth 1,000 points for what is basically trash. Suddenly, an optional quest appears for Kim, and he quickly presses accept, even though it's a big hassle. But what most people don't know is that the reward for the bland quest is the rank S item called the Cube of Life. As someone who created 1,000 ranked characters in the past, he goes to the mana training room because he knows a way to get the item without going through the extremely annoying quest line by using the amplification skill to upgrade his copied magic engineering from rank B to S. He starts solving the 10 by 10 magic cube within a time limit of just 60 seconds. Normally it would take about 3 days to solve, but he manages to make serious progress in just 1 minute. After that, he concentrates fully and develops his core through a full hour of focused meditation and repeatedly continues with 1 minute of work on the cube, without stopping because he needs to get the Cube of Life before Friday, to be in time for a very special event. The next day in class, he is surprised to see Yuna arriving early, while Hyun arrives strangely late but is soon distracted by Yuna's surprise dinosaur cookie attack. While our boy is absolutely delighted with the crunchy cookies from her, Hyun finally appears and asks how it went in the training room. Special. With a big welcoming smile on his face, Rio says it was amazing, and believes he will have a breakthrough in no time. Hearing this, Kim promises to get the season pass as soon as possible, while Yuna becomes extremely depressed upon hearing him call her adorable teddy bear cookies dinosaurs. Then, the professor in charge of the class enters the room and announces that the battles will be held in the arena. From now on, the time limit will be increased to a full 10 minutes, so it is best to use every moment wisely. He also explains that all first-year students must complete 3 matches within the week, and their score will be drastically reduced if they refuse to participate. Hearing this, Kim smiles silently in anticipation of the event he had been eagerly waiting for, and thinks that it is finally time to crush the competition. He checks the system panel and notices a sub-mission that increases the reward, based on how many victories he gets after playing 3-player versus player matches. Because of this time he knows he cannot afford to lose and has no choice but to win. He tells Ryun-woo to go to the arena with him, but before he can leave, In-ah grabs his arm and mentions that he is free today, Everyone nearby looks at them, thinking a proposal is about to happen. But their hopes are immediately dashed when they realize that it is just about a training session the two had planned. Later in the afternoon, when the arena is completely empty, Kim is casually joking around with his friend. A red-haired guy named Di Hong suddenly enters and starts mocking him for giving up the battle against Miss Song. He calls Kim a coward, which instantly angers Ryun-woo again, but Kim calmly waves him off and stops things from escalating. Still, Kim does not plan on going easy on the redhead, and starts taunting him by pointing out that they both ended up with the same score in the placement exams. This angers Di Hong even more, who yells about how insulting it is to be compared to a coward. In an attempt to prove his point, he challenges Kim to a one-on-one duel right then and there. Kim accepts without hesitation, clearly enjoying how things are going exactly as he wanted. Di Hong goes all out, thinking he can end the match with a single powerful move. But Kim stays one step ahead and hits him with the hummingbird spell, instantly paralyzing him. He even mocks Di Hong for falling for the same trick twice, especially after being humiliated by the Thunder Girl not long ago. Kim says that he at least showed more mercy than Song Chun-hee, and ends the fight, defeating him without any difficulty. Even after a clear defeat, the redhead refuses to accept his loss and insists that a second match would have a different outcome. Kim plays along and accepts another round, but the result remains the same, with Di Hong ending up even worse than before. Still not ready to give up, Di Hong challenges him again, clearly determined to turn the tables somehow even though Kim only needs one more victory to complete his mission. He acts completely exhausted and insists on getting something in return if they are to fight again. The poor redhead, desperate for another chance, hands over a spiritual pill, made by his own family, just to get Kim to agree to a rematch, only to be defeated in the same way again. This time the beatdown finally makes him understand, and Duranga admits his defeat, even apologizing for all the rude things he said before he tells Kim he was wrong to call him a coward and says he misjudged him, but Kim casually tells him to keep acting like a coward for now, although the request seems a bit suspicious. Duranga ends up agreeing without pressing further after getting his 3 victories. Kim checks with his friend and finds out that Hyun-woo also managed to secure 2 victories. Hyun-woo says he still has one more match to go, and tells Kim to go on ahead, while he finishes. Kim then heads to the Mana training room, where he starts working with Aimee, patiently teaching her the fundamentals of magical designs and helping her get stronger. The girl proves to be a quick learner, and the way she absorbs everything leaves Kim genuinely impressed. Their training continues until it's finally her turn to fight, and she enters her match against a guy with green hair named Kyle. The guy tries to be clever by using the terrain to stay hidden, but Aimee just smiles and takes him down easily, securing a clean and easy victory. Later that night, the class professor reviews the match, replays, and notices some strange things. His eyes widen when he sees Aimee's battle, and he begins to question how someone could improve so much in just 2 days. It's at that moment he realizes, remembering he heard that Kim trained with her, and it becomes quite clear that he pulled some strings again. All of this gives the professor a certain chill, as he starts to wonder who this mysterious boy really is. Meanwhile, Kim is relaxing elsewhere, completely focused on the cube, and he finally finishes creating the Cube of Life, which increases the effectiveness of any stored life-type item by 1.3 times. He feels quite proud of himself for all the hard work and intense meditation that took his core to D rank, so now the mana consumption of his skills won't be as painful as before. With the preparations finally complete, our hero confidently prepares to announce his new little invention. On his way to class, he runs into the druid Nari Park, and just as he planned, all animals like her cat are incredibly sensitive to life energy. So the cube instantly attracts the little tiger, and it immediately jumps inside that bad boy, getting quite comfortable. Nari apologizes for her overly curious cat being so persistent and politely asks it to come out. But as a prodigy, she instantly senses the rich life energy emanating from his strange invention. At that exact moment, Kim tells her that he needs to go, so it would be great if she could take back his cat, which is needier than his ex. Intrigued by the mysterious cube, Nora asks him if he is from Class 3, and after that she finally leaves, still apologizing, resulting in a great success in Kim's silent mission of catching the attention of the Nature Club and getting that precious season pass, so he fully prepares for the long-awaited main event. Later in class, the professor is reading a boring lecture, but he waits intensely for just one more minute until the event is triggered. After the class ends, the students start to relax and chat, when suddenly a deep red aura shines brightly, and a pulsating sphere appears out of nowhere. Rays shoot out from the mysterious man and hit all the students in the room, but their panic is short-lived as it disappears as quickly as it appeared. At first they think nothing really happened, but when they start to notice numbers printed on the foreheads of each other. Our hero instantly recognizes this as the surprise inspection. Known as the banishment wave, it uses some sophisticated sci-fi magic to detect if the students possess inappropriate toys or illegal items in their inventory and locks them. Our hero is genuinely surprised by the horrible and shrill sound it makes, while Liam and Leo remain unfazed as if nothing strange had happened. Next, he looks at a clumsy guy in a panic as he checks his inventory, and calmly walks up to him to ask if his club president mentioned that today was inspection day. Even so, the guy yells that he has nothing technically illegal, but what he has are things that no man should be caught carrying, so our boy casually offers to give him a little help. He seriously doubts if Kim can really do anything, but the moment Kim takes the item, he desperately begs for him to save him and swears he will do whatever he says in return. Upon hearing this, our boy calmly makes it clear to the guy that he now officially owes him a favor, which the guy quickly confirms without hesitation, then tells him to put any of his forbidden items inside the cube, leaving the guy curiously suspicious if it's really safe hidden together under the table. Like two totally suspicious guys, our friend tells him to take it or leave it. Hearing the approaching footsteps, he panics and quickly throws all of his contraband inside the cube of life. Without saying another word, suddenly Chloe makes an explosive entrance and yells for all the filthy villains to freeze where they are. She immediately notices the boys hiding under the table and demands to know what exactly they're trying to hide. But our hero, Ken, casually stands up and replies that they're just having a private chat between guys, and that it's none of her business. The guy with the number on his forehead backs him up, insisting they weren't doing anything suspicious. But Chloe tells him to empty his pockets of the suspicious junk he's carrying anyway. Then she turns to Ken and tells him to bring out whatever he's hiding as well, because the orb doesn't lie. She is stunned when there's no reaction, completely baffled. She watches as Ken apologizes and walks away, feeling quite satisfied for having gotten the cube of life just in time for Friday, because demonstrating the usefulness of the one item that can bypass the prohibition wave will give him some serious bargaining power. After class, he heads back down the hallway with the same guy who can't stop thanking him profusely because he probably wouldn't be breathing anymore if he'd been caught carrying the contraband he had. With a sly smile, Ken casually reminds him that he didn't do it for free. Our boy then tells him to go straight to his club's president to retrieve the items, and the guy nervously admits that she's actually been wanting to see him for quite some time. You see, the Thieves Guild is responsible for moving all the items, illegal throughout Dragonslayer Academy. And right at the door, our boy watches the unsuspecting guy innocently say hello to his boss, only for her to kick him straight in the face for making her work on her day off. She then starts wailing on the poor guy, saying he totally wasted her precious free time. Seeing her beat the tar out of him, Ken finally says hello to remind her that he's still there, and the lady instantly calms down and introduces herself as Juno, president of the Thieves Club. She immediately switches into business mode and demands that he show her the item he claims can completely bypass the prohibition system. Upon seeing the cube of life up close, she can't believe it exists, just as the rumors claimed, and she even admits that she's getting so thrilled she wants to steal it for herself right then and there. Still, our boy reminds her she'll be caught immediately, as all high-tech items have an anti-theft feature, leaving her impressed that the thing is so high-tech. Upon hearing this, her over-the-top excitement dies down, and she leans back, asking what our hero really wants, while explaining that there isn't much they can offer, since the club is kind of broke at the moment. But he assures her that he won't ask for anything they can't actually handle, and then politely requests that she personally accompany him to the temporary underground warehouse for a private business discussion. This instantly sours her mood, and she narrows her eyes, asking him if he's really serious, because the temporary storage room is where all the contraband is dumped right after being caught by the prohibition wave. She explains that it's usually examined within a week by the higher-ups, after which everything disappears, mysteriously, to a place that no one knows anything about. However, our boy calmly states that he already knows the president herself will be heading there in a day or two. So she asks him to just be honest if he's a lackey who works for the disciplinary committee. He shrugs and informs her that he has nothing to do with that snobby group. In fact, he's on pretty bad terms with them. Upon hearing this, she says that while she's grateful for his previous help, his current request isn't exactly an easy thing for her to pull off without any issues. At this point, he catches her completely by surprise by saying he already knows that the temporary storage is guarded day and night by members of the disciplinary committee, and while getting in is already difficult enough, getting out after the job is almost impossible. That's exactly why he offers her a good deal. She just needs to help him get out, and in return, he will hand over the cube of life. The president pauses and ponders his proposal seriously, realizing it would be incredibly useful for the Thieves' Club to hide their most valuable items inside a magic cube that not even the bandwave can detect. While she mulls it over, he locks eyes with her and gives her one last chance to take the deal before he walks out of the picture completely. Overlooking the site where the secret operation is about to happen, the thieves have gathered. Before making any drastic moves, the club leader, Dione, did a preliminary head count, making sure everyone was present. All were accounted for, but her thieves were confused by the addition of an unknown rookie. Without giving her members too much information, Dione simply stated that the boy is there to help. Naturally, the more experienced thieves were skeptical of the boy. The job is already risky enough as it is. Adding another rookie to the mix could mess things up. Davin, the club's technician and off-site support, verified that the preparations were complete. As one last piece of advice, the leader warned him to avoid standing out at all costs. Once inside, the priority is to grab rare and small items. Infusing their legs with dark powers, the Thieves' Club moved forward. The technique was called Silent Steps, a B-level movement technique, very useful. Ever since the Cube of Life was created, King Rose felt free to clean the place out, magic engineering from his skill list, and replace it with a crucial stealth ability. All it takes is to see the group execute the technique. Meanwhile, the lone guard at the entrance was completely unprepared for what was about to happen. Suddenly, he saw bizarre butterflies flying around him. By the time he realized something suspicious was going on, the butterflies had already detonated, transforming into a restrictive substance. Through shadow flight, it was a perfect rope and a gag to deal with unprepared guards without causing serious harm. In this old building, the third floor secretly houses a ton of treasures. It's natural that the authorities have placed numerous security traps around the place. After bypassing a good number of these traps, the group was spotted by a patrolling guard on the inside. The patrolman tried to raise his staff but was quickly tied up and neutralized by the twin thieves. Next, they encountered even more guards, and the group dealt with the security personnel quickly and efficiently. Without any unnecessary bloodshed, they eventually reached the final corner that leads to the temporary storage room. Before breaking into the treasury, Donkyong took out an artifact for a final check through a magic glass. She spotted a troublesome, goblin-like guy guarding the door to the storage room. He's a tough third-year senior, wielding an A-rank axe called Hellcleaver. For a thief like Gion, this is the worst possible matchup. It seems King Hoot will have to step in and help. Earlier tonight, he turned to the boss and confirmed if she had Shadow Sound on her skill list. Only a very few people know about this technique, but there's no time to explain how King Hoot learned of it. After getting confirmation, he gave her a light tap and used Amplify to raise the class Shadow Sound to A class. They were wasting time, so there was no time to be surprised. Seo-yoon used Dream of Shadows and generated more butterflies than he had ever summoned in his entire life. The purple insects quickly surrounded the axe-wielding bastard. Like the brute he is, this guy started swinging his huge weapon, trying to cut down the tiny insects. Of course, this didn't work at all. As soon as one of the butterflies got in range to explode, a chain reaction was triggered. The axe-wielding brute was taken out of the equation in a single blow. He looked like a cocoon, ready to sprout wings. A-rank skills are A-rank for a reason. William made a mental note to confront Hoot about all this madness after the mission was over. With the last line of defense neutralized, the thieves were free to enjoy the treasury as they looked for shiny and valuable things. Jin Ho did some personal shopping on his own. The Academy's list of prohibited items restricts mainly items with dangerous side effects. If something harms the body or mind, it is forbidden. Tonight, Jin Ho is targeting prohibited items. Items with elemental penalties like the Shock Stone, which causes paralysis. With his S-class elemental resistance, these items are practically free of disadvantages for him. After a few minutes of careful searching, he finally felt satisfied with his haul. Since they had a little more time, he might as well look for some skill books. Skills with severe elemental penalties tend to be strong, after all. Flipping through piles and piles of skill books, he finally found something that caught his eye. It was a smoldering book that emitted an incredible heat. Since Jin Ho was lacking in the combat skills department, this grimoire, which describes a flaming fist, was a godsend. While the team was packing up the loot, some unexpected guests burst in. The student council president of Dragonslayer Academy, Liu Song, and a second-year disciplinary committee member, Jae Guok, came to complicate things. Danielle Young was not fazed. She was more annoyed than anything else. They might have chosen the wrong night to carry out this operation. In no mood to listen to them, the student council president demanded their surrender, complete surrender, and a peaceful transfer to the disciplinary room. The longer this operation dragged on, the worse it would be for the thieves. In that case, William used one of his contingencies and shouted for his people to split up and escape. She poured something on the ground, generating a shadow haven that conceals allies inside for a few minutes. Of course, this was enough time to get away. Jae-guok took out a scrying crystal and quickly located the thieves still trapped inside the building. After passing the word for the entire security team to leave the old building, getting out became much harder. On the way out, Jin-ho was interrupted by a large boulder rolling in his direction. Fortunately, he had good enough reflexes to dodge the rock-hard attack. Jae-guok calmly stepped out from the corner, praising Jin-ho for dodging such a well-executed surprise attack. Jae-guok had done his homework. He knew most of the members of the Thieves' Club, but this black-haired boy was completely unknown, perhaps a freshman. Jin-ho didn't even give a verbal response. He was smart enough to hide his voice in front of the authorities, and Jae-guok respected that. If he wouldn't speak, it basically meant that surrender was out of the question. All over the floor, sharp stone stakes protruded, trying to unbalance Jin-ho. After closing enough of the gap, he summoned an electric hummingbird. Jae clicked his tongue and summoned stone cannons held by tree roots, unleashing a barrage of cannonballs. He hoped to take down the thief, but the hummingbird simply floated around the sea of cannonballs. With such grace, this nerd had never seen such masterful control over a bird in his entire life. If he hadn't cast a defensive spell in advance, he would be finished by now. As he recovered from the shock, the freshman thief silently rushed past him. Unfortunately for Jae, he was forced to follow the only path out, and that path was filled with a deadly trap made of more stone cannons. Jae detonated an ultra blast, apparently intending to make an example of this freshman. No one had ever taken one of his planned attacks and survived. Just as he was about to check the aftermath, Jae started to sweat as the temperature in the hallway rose to infernal levels. The last thing he saw was a thief with a fist burning as if it had come straight from the depths of hell. Feeling the pressure as he witnessed a forbidden skill in action, Jae poured every drop of mana he had in his body to build a sturdy, triple-layered wall of bloodstone. But that fancy defensive technique was nothing more than thin paper against King Ru's fiery punch. He executed the Inferno Fist with a devastating blow, tearing through the wall and sending his opponent flying. This time he got lucky and succeeded, but controlling a forbidden skill was harder than he thought. The power level, in particular, was difficult to manage. Fortunately, he held back just enough to avoid causing serious injury to the poor guy. The school probably wouldn't intervene, but the Emerald Magic Tower and the disciplinary committee would not remain silent. Those curious fools worked overtime to uncover King Ru's identity, but they won't find anything. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps drawn by the commotion approached. This was King Ru's cue to get out of there. He silently left the battlefield just as the members of the disciplinary committee arrived. The next day, a few people were escorted to the truth room of the Student Disciplinary Committee. Sitting on the defendant's bench, Donnie Young feigned innocence with all her might. She had been in custody for so long that she wore down the student council president, who then left the room. The head of the disciplinary committee took over the interrogation process and used a gentle approach. He calmly handed the temporary storage item logbook to Danny Young, who flipped through the pages with joy. She mentally thanked King Ru for getting involved. Page after page, small but valuable, items were pocketed by her club. The committee head and everyone else knows who the culprit is, but they don't know what method they used to store the items, nor do they have any concrete evidence, as usual. Gi-young firmly denied the accusations. If she has to take the blame for a case without any real proof, it won't hold up anyway. For now, the chief can only issue a weak disciplinary action against the main culprit. After leaving the room of truth, she found the rest of the disciplinary committee counting heads inside the room. It seems they are missing a core member. Seeing her act with such arrogance irritated Chun-rae. She thinks the manipulator is shamelessly feigning innocence, and she's reaching her boiling point. Chun-rae remarked on one of the thieves using something as dangerous as the Hell Fist to send Sean Waksim-jai to the infirmary. In truth, Gi-young had no idea what this girl was talking about, but if she had to guess, only one guy in this operation was skilled enough to use a forbidden technique. After the interrogation, the club leader went straight to the clubhouse and checked the hand of Kim Ho. Surprisingly, it looked perfectly normal. Not a single burn mark. Kim Ho didn't bother to hide the fact that he was responsible for that guy's hospitalization. Forget that nerd with glasses. It's time to check the fruits of their labor. Looking at the multitude of treasures stored safely in the cube of life, Gi-young drooled with excitement. She had never seen a soup of such beautiful colors before. With this bountiful harvest, the deal should be considered complete. Just as Kim Ho was about to leave, Gi-young stopped him with a formal invitation to join the Thieves' Club. She promised to take care of the rookie if he'd let her. Last night, she saw arrogance and greed in his eyes. To her, This boy is the embodiment of a perfect thief. It might sound like an insult, but coming from her, it's a huge compliment. Kim Ho refused the recruitment offer. He figured this girl only wanted him partly because of the Cube of Life. He already has plans to sell the thing anyway. However, more than anything, he needs season passes for the special practice room, about 4 of them. Besides, the immunity to the ban wave is just a bonus feature. The cube's true strength is its core ability. He promised to reveal the item's description to her in exchange for a small favor. Kim Ho just wanted to plant a few seeds by passing a message to the head of the Magitech Club, some news about a freshman completing a 10 by 10 by 10 cube. She agreed, and was stunned when she read what the Cube of Life was really about. Enhancing the effects of items, of life stored in a single point, 3 times what it would be sold for anyway, for the price in some factions. Before finally leaving, Gwen seriously asked Jinwoo to consider her invitation. Even without the cube in the equation, she values everything he can bring to the table, so he promised to think about it. A weekend passed, and a few days of silence calmed the disciplinary committee down a bit. Today, Jinwoo is heading to class with the permanently lethargic Sarah. It's only Monday morning, and she's already moving like a zombie. As they got closer and closer to their next class, Jinwoo became increasingly certain that he was being followed by some kids from the Bly, Emerald Magic Tower, or the Nature Club. He doesn't care much if they snoop, but cutting the Doffling problem off at the root is the least annoying way to deal with this sort of thing. So he let Sarah go to class first while he dealt with some rats. Sarah quietly complied, but she also noticed the 2 poorly hidden spies. Jinwoo turned and directly confronted the annoying duo. The girl was alarmed, but the boy was arrogantly pleased that Jinwoo had saved him the trouble of initiating the confrontation. He proudly claimed to be a mage from the Emerald Magic Tower. The blue-haired girl, however, was much more polite in her approach, formally inviting Jinwoo to meet their leader. Of course, he firmly rejected such an invitation. If the tower's leader needs something from him, the leader can come personally instead of sending lackeys. The boy was pleased that Jinwoo wasn't cooperating, and he put on a glove. He was eager to beat someone up to send a message. To that, Jinwoo agreed. Without giving the punk a chance to finish his monologue, Jinwoo sent a hummingbird flying. Upon landing, it completely paralyzed the green-clad punk, making him convulse uncontrollably. The female punk watched her partner twitch on the ground, not knowing what to do. If they're looking for trouble, Jinwoo is always open for business. Knowing she was no match for someone as decisive as this guy, the girl apologized for causing trouble. From the hummingbird's movement, she could tell that this Jinwoo was a skilled fighter. She apologized, and he turned away. At least one of the punks had enough brain cells to know when to quit. The girl believed the rumors about Jinwoo being a coward were just a lie. The male punk, on the other hand, believed that Jinwoo had simply gotten lucky with a cheap shot. He was already plotting his revenge when a magic bullet cut through the air and struck the back of his skull. The girl quickly scanned the surroundings, terrified of the unseen sniper who could be hiding anywhere. She had tried to be polite and smart, but the girl got caught in the crossfire and took a bullet to the head. The representatives from the Emerald Magic Tower were effectively neutralized before class. The instructor discusses how dungeons are designed to drain those who enter. Running out of resources inside is equivalent to failure. Surprisingly, Yae-in sat down later than King Ru. Perhaps it was because she was busy eliminating a few people outside. Finally, the instructor announced that their next raid test will be in a time attack format. Shallow-level timed underground dungeons can be challenged multiple times in practice mode, but you only get one chance in the real challenge. For a timed attack, you need to reach the target and destroy the totem. Within 5 minutes to pass, the students are encouraged to practice their route, their most efficient route before the live run. As it will be a duo challenge, Shinchu immediately latched onto the top scorer from the last exam, Brian Go. Kim Hall gave the guy the green light to team up with another of his friends. It seems his partner was already decided. As soon as the instructor made the announcement, Yae-in clung to his sleeve, while declaring that they were now a duo. Just when you think Miss and Mr. Rat are done being punished, we turn our attention to the Emerald Magic Tower. A bald man with the power to control trees is venting his anger and frustration on his subordinates. After all, his brother, a disciplinary officer, was beaten up by a thief. Baldy managed to control his emotions, letting go of Mr. Rat, before things got out of hand. Sitting on his wooden throne, Baldy was lost in a dark premonition. The president of the Emerald Magic Tower, Mok Daeon-woo, plans to find the infamous Kim Hoon. On the advice of the Nature Club's president, Ray Seo-yoon, the tower's reputation is at rock bottom. Maybe they can recover a little, if they get their hands on that strange cube. Jungo plans to take it as payment for insulting Emerald. Upon hearing the boss's plan, Mr. Rat spoke out of turn, and offered to be sent out once more for a chance to redeem himself. He insisted that he was simply careless, the first time. Yoongai is willing to give him a chance at redemption, but failure would result in his expulsion from the club. Even with such risks, Mr. Rat accepted the mission with confidence. Just to be sure, Mochi Jungwa agreed to lend Mr. Rat a golem to help crush that enigmatic rookie. While schemes are being hatched in the Emerald Tower, our boy is running through the Goblin Swamp, alongside Yayin. This is their first practice run, just a test, to get a good feel for the time trial to win the best reward in the solo and duo dungeons. The system gave King Ru less than 1 minute to complete both tests. The solo dungeon will not be a problem, since he can go all out in there. The duo assessment is a bit more complicated. If he were to teach his, Yayin, a fixed pattern for this goblin-infested swamp, finishing quickly would be easy. However, giving her a secret code like that won't help her grow naturally. She would benefit more from practicing her own rotations and routes. A few minutes of running and gunning later, the duo finally reached the lair of the flood goblins, the swamp's boss. Before initiating combat, King Ho asked his partner if she wanted to use dodges or go straight for an all-out attack. Defeating a boss earns the team 120 bonus points. With such a tasty reward at stake, how could you not risk it for the victory? King Ho got into the most optimal position to support Ian's DPS using the control that Hummingbird offers. Unfortunately, the boss monster wasn't dumb enough to tank an obvious attack with its body. Even so, the flood goblin's attention was captured, leaving Ian completely free for a clear shot with her rifle. As she pulled the trigger, she hit the back of the goblin's bald head. Her magic bullet didn't have enough damage to pierce and kill with a single shot. If anything, it just made the boss more hostile and erratic. Wildly brandishing its sword, the flood goblin shifted its attention to the shooter. At this close range, the rifle's advantage is completely nullified. Still, Ian didn't panic for even a second. She calmly raised her sights and pulled the trigger. Part of her confidence comes from the trust she has in King Ho, who always makes the right decision at the right time. Using Amplify on himself, the Hummingbird's rank was elevated from E to C for a limited time as a result. The bird became larger and more prominent. Its voltage was higher, and the paralyzing property was even more potent. With a completely stunned goblin in her sights, Ian lined up a brutal shot from 5 meters away. The practice run was a resounding success. Adding up their kill points, remaining time, and clear bonus, the duo scored 649 points. They greatly reduced their best time since the first run they tried, and there's still room for improvement. Before repeating, Ian asked her partner to demonstrate that magic shot technique again. After spending more and more time with her, King Ho realized just how truly competitive this girl is. She was clearly annoyed that the goblin boss didn't go down when she had the first clear chance. Since she wants to work on specific parts of her game, it would be better to go to the training center's shooting range. King Ho elaborated with an extensive lesson on a skill called Discharge. So far, the quality of his partner's mana shots was excellent. However, she was just using them as tools and nothing more, effectively wasting their potential. To demonstrate with an easy example, he formed a magic bullet and pretended his hand was a mana gun. This way, he could to show one more detailed demonstration of the rapid mana release with one perfectly timed snap. This is the core principle of the discharge. It's similar to firing a normal mana shot, but understanding these small adjustments can truly change the technique and power drastically. Following his instructions, Sia tried to imitate Kian's fingergun demonstration, but when she tried to send the bullet forward, it illogically fired backward. For a great markswoman, she strangely lacks all the fundamentals to lower the difficulty a bit. They opted to just fire mana shots instead of forming bullets. Sia's task is to perfect her mana shot while Kian grabs something to eat for dinner. As he was about to leave, she offered him a black card to use for the food. Based on the sheen of that thing, Sia must be a very rich young lady upon arriving at the cafeteria. Kian took advantage of the unlimited money and got a little bit of everything while he was ordering at the counter. That handsome swordswoman Chunhua noticed him from across the room, turned her head and bit the metal fork she was using in half. Recovering her composure, this is actually a perfect chance to confirm something that had been bothering her for days. Running up to Kian, she asked if she could see his hand for a moment. The unidentified thief, who used the infernal fist during the storage incident, is still at large. Imagine Chunhua's surprise upon hearing that the thief was an expert in the skill. Hummingbird, someone connected to the Thieves Guild, she knows someone who fits the criteria, perfectly disguising her strange request as palm reading practice. Chunhua was eager to check if Kian had any burn marks on his hand. He acted confused. Playing along with the girl's naive game, he raised his hand and let Chunhua observe and prod it as much as she wanted. When the first hand showed no marks, she demanded to see the other. After a careful examination, she found no signs of burns. She was stunned and forgot to let go of Kian's hands. She thought she had it all figured out. Now she is the one who is confused. As she fled the embarrassing situation, deciding to tease her a bit, Kian demanded to know his fortune from the palm reading, but specifically he wanted to know about the future of his love life. Annoyed by the shameless teasing, she shouted that he would have many difficult days ahead. While the rest of the committee is relaxing, this stubborn girl is still hunting for the culprits. Fortunately, Kian handled this interaction well enough to ward off further suspicion. The next day arrived, and the duo of Kian and Sia are still at it with their speedrun practice. This time, she opted for 2 pistols instead of a large sniper rifle. This way, she could bombard and attack the goblins with overwhelming numbers after dealing with the small fry. Finally, it was time to bring out the heavy artillery. As usual, King Ro took on a more supportive role, launching hummingbirds to stun, while Ian dealt most of the damage this time. Her shots weren't just accurate and deadly, they were powerful enough to tear through the goblins' weapons without pause, adding in the remaining time and kill count, boss elimination, and clear bonus. The duo scored 728 points after that clean performance, which earned Ian the praise she deserved for perfectly integrating what she learned yesterday into her battle skills. For the first time since they met on that train, King Ro saw the sleepy girl smile. Well, everyone, that's the end of the video. If you liked it, please comment. For the next part, subscribe to the channel and leave a like.